set to start.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I am Michael Powers, counsel to the Commissioner of the Division of Insurance, and I've been appointed as co-chair of the Auto Body Labor Rate Advisory Board by Insurance Commissioner Michael T. Caljo. The other co-chair who is in attendance today is Stacy Gotham. Stacy is an actuary and is with the Office of the Attorney General and has been appointed as co-chair by the Attorney General, Andrea J. Campbell. Aaron Shannon is the person from the Office of the Attorney General conducting the recording and all our technical requirements. Please introduce yourself, Aaron.
Hello, everyone. I will be hosting the Zoom, so if you have any technological problems, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. This meeting is being held virtually in accordance with Governor Haley executing into law on March 28, 2025, Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, which, among other things, further extends temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to June 30th, 2027. The temporary provisions were first implemented by executive order in March 2020 by Governor Baker and subsequently enacted into law by Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to amending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. Some rules of the road here for board members. For starters, all virtual meetings will be recorded, and please be mindful of what is in view of the camera. If a board member is going to leave the meeting, tell the co-chairs, and a note will be made in the minutes of the meeting. When a board member returns to the meeting, tell the co-chairs, so that note may be made in the minutes of the meeting. This is a requirement of the open meeting law. The open meeting law also requires us to have a roll call vote of the board members present. Before I do the roll call vote, I'm going to make a brief statement. The Auto Body Labor Rate Advisory Board was created by Governor Haley's Mass Leads Act, Section 292 of Chapter 238 of the Acts of 2024. Section 292 sets out the appointment of the 14 board members to the board. And there are various categories required in the statute for representing various interested parties in Massachusetts, such as the Automobile Insurance Bureau of Massachusetts, the Automotive Service Providers of Massachusetts, Massachusetts State Automobile Dealers Association, and of course, the chairs have been their appointments come through the statute by the Attorney General and the Insurance Commissioner. Hereafter, I'll refer to this as the Advisory Board. In accordance with the law, the 14 members are representative of various interested parties in the auto body and insurance industries and other specialists. Those members from the auto body insurance industries are distinguished leaders in their industries. Pursuant to the law, the Advisory Board is tasked with the following. Now, this is a quote. The Advisory Board shall be responsible for creating, implementing, and overseeing a survey given to relevant auto body shops. The Advisory Board shall collect industry data, including but not limited to 1, labor rates in neighboring states, 2, auto body shop costs, 3, total labor cost, 4, inflation data, 5, workforce data, 6, vocational technical school trends, 7, insurance premiums, and 8, any additional information as required by the Advisory Board. The results of the survey and the data collected shall be reviewed and analyzed by the Advisory Board. Not later than December 31st of 2025, the Advisory Board shall make recommendations to the Division of Insurance for a fair and equitable labor rate and file a report of its findings, conclusions, and recommendations with the clerks of the Senate and House of Representatives, the Joint Committee on Financial Services, the Senate and House Committees on Ways and Means, and the Division of Insurance. So the two main tasks that the board has is to do the survey and collect the data, and to make recommendations. That's the main function of the board. At this time, I will conduct a roll call of board members present and attending as required by the open meeting law. For the Division of Standards appointment, Mark A. Morante.
Present.
Thank you. Consumer Advocate appointee by the co-chair, Shane Kane.
Thorne, yes, at present.
Thank you. Business Group appointee by co-chairs, J.C. Burton. J.C. Burton had told us prior to the meeting that she has a commitment. Her daughter is graduating from high school today, so she's unavoidably detained elsewhere. The Economist appointee by the co-chairs, John Quokka.
Present.
Thank you. The appointee of the Massachusetts Association of Insurance Agents, Paul C. Burke.
Present.
Thank you. The appointee, Massachusetts State Automobile Dealers Association, Inc., David Brown.
Present.
Thank you. The Automobile Bureau Assurance appointees, starting with Christopher S. Stark.
Present.
Thank you. Peter Smith.
Present.
Thank you. Samantha Tracy.
Present.
Thank you. The Alliance of Automotive Service Providers of Massachusetts appointee number 1, Rick Stava.
Present.
Thank you. Brian Bernard.
Present.
And then Matt Ceschini.
Present.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, so we have 13 out of 14 advisory board members present, and therefore we have a quorum to hold the meeting. Now, the upcoming item on the agenda is the proposed survey. By way of background, the advisory board agreed to have a working group of 4 members discuss proposed questions for the auto body labor rate survey. The 4 members reported back with the proposed survey and suggested 5 questions about auto body labor rates, but could not agree on 2 additional questions. At the meeting that was held last week on May 29, 2025, the advisory board members held a lengthy and robust discussion on the questions for the survey, and at the conclusion of the discussion, it was decided to have the working group meet again and make additional recommendations to the advisory board. The working group has met and has proposed 2 additional questions to the survey, but still could not agree to the other 2 questions that they did not agree with in the first instance. Today, we'll hold a final discussion about the auto body rate survey, which will be provided to the auto body shops. And at the end of the discussion, I will poll the members to the consensus of the question that will be placed in the survey. So the current form of the survey that was proposed by the advisory board states the following. Please provide the following information about your repair facility. Number 1, name of repair facility. Number 2, registered shop number from Division of Standards. Number 3, your facility zip code. Number 4, your facility's county in Massachusetts. Number 5, name of the individual filling out the survey. Number 6, email address to reach the individual above. Number 7, phone number of the repair facility. New number 8 from the previous survey is your facility's primary function collision damage repairs? A new number 8 that was added to this survey now. This is the survey we have in front of us. Number 9, provide the labor rate your facility charges consumers on non-insurance repairs for the following categories of repairs. While we understand you may have charges for other services, we are only collecting data for the following categories. A, body labor rate. B, refinishing labor rate. C, and this is a new item, aluminum labor rate. D, mechanical labor rate. E, structural labor rate. F, frame labor rate. And it's a new number 10. If your facility has fleet or government contracts, please provide below the highest and lowest labor rates charged under those contracts. A, highest non-insurance contracted labor rate. B, lowest non-insurance contracted labor rate. And question 11, if your facility completes both insurance and non-insurance involved repairs, please provide a good faith estimate of the average monthly percentage of repairs completed without insurance company involvement. So in number 10, those are the two disputed questions that the working group could not agree on. So at the end of the discussion, Stacy will turn the meeting back to me, and I will poll the members of the board, and I'll break it into two questions. The first question will be number 1, do you agree with the proposed survey as written, up to including question 9, containing the 6 categories of auto body labor rates? That's the first question. The second part of that question is, do you agree with adding in the additional proposed questions contained in number 10 of the proposed survey? And I quote what I've just read. That will be the poll we take at the end of the discussion when Stacy turns the board meeting back over to me to conduct the poll of the membership. Now, at this time, I turn the board meeting over to co-chair Stacy Gothel.
Okay. Before we get to the survey, we do have a preliminary item on the agenda, and that is just discussion of an additional date for expert testimony. I believe Chris Stark from the Insurance Federation had requested an additional date because they have the insurance industry has an expert that they would like to testify and is not available at the public hearing. So Michael and I just briefly discussed this, and we were thinking that there would be a time scheduled in September for such testimony. Any comments on that? Rick? You have your hand up.
I do, but it was related to what Attorney Powers had said regarding what questions were going to be pulled. We're also needing to pull question number 11.
Okay. Yeah, no, I noted that too.
But no, I have
That's
no
fine.
objection to September.
Chris Stark.
Thank you, co-chair. And yes, my vision for this meeting though isn't just about having the insurer representative come before the board in September. I think that it would be important for if AASP, if the agents or the dealers or any other member of this board has other experts, that we would be able to have a hearing scheduled that would allow us to dive in with those experts in more detail. So just making clear, I don't think that it would only be a day for an insurance economist, for instance, but would be a day that we could bring in those relevant experts that may not be able to join us for the public hearing, or that we'd otherwise want to talk to in a setting where we feel more comfortable kind of diving into the weeds with more questions than may be prudent for the public session. But for us, working together for a date in September would be great.
Okay. Mark?
So Stacy, just to be clear, it would be a meeting like this, a remote meeting. It wouldn't be an in-person.
That would be my preference. I don't know how you feel about it, Michael.
That's fine by me.
Yeah.
And that works for me.
Matthew?
All right, Stacy, I just want to impart, do we want to have any of the experts submit in writing? Just maybe that who is going to be on the call, or are we just opening it to the public?
I thought was that it's not going to be another public hearing. It was just going to be an opportunity for testimony, but
Yeah, I was seeing my vision for it, Matt, was for it to be virtual. And we would just come on here and, we would hear from them, go through any questions that we have, but
if,
be
if other
public.
board members, Matt, if you if the auto body industry has other as individuals, they would like to have testify, they can do that at the same time.
Okay, yeah, I was just wanted to, for the sake of not making the meeting too large, just how many people, I guess if we have people that want to submit, then do you want us as the repairers to just provide you with those names that we would want involved?
That would be great.
Okay, all right, excellent.
Brian?
Thank you. I was curious to find out what our next meetings might look like. I know obviously we have the public hearing. Will there be something else that we plan on scheduling before this potential September? And what
Yes,
might
there will
we
be.
be
And
discussing?
that's actually further down on the agenda. And hopefully
Okay.
we're going to get to that today. And one thing I did want to ask everyone is when we do have comments, if you could keep them to a couple, like 2 or 3 minutes, so we can get through this agenda today. I don't want to have to go into a third session, and not like revisit things that have been raised already. Okay, so let's look at the recommendation for the auto for body labor rate survey. This is essentially the same as the survey that was presented last time with an additional item added in response to Sean Kane's comments. Mark?
I'm just going to ask folks, whoever wants to comment, particularly those who have more knowledge than I do about statistics, maybe Professor Polka and Samantha Tracy or others, to comment on to what extent the specific answers that these questions in the draft number 10 will provide data that is meaningful, that is useful to us.
Well, I think all of the fields in the form, the actual form, are going to be required numeric values, and so that should allow us to aggregate the information readily in Excel.
I'm just wondering how meaningful it will be to know only the highest and the lowest labor rates for that category, as opposed to a mean, median, or some other statistical figure.
Well, we could certainly add a mean or a median to items A and B if we decide to include the question, because that question is still in dispute.
Sorry, I
So-
still can't find my. Go ahead.
That's question 10. It's highlighted.
So let me just add, if I may, that that's a fair question. I wanted to ask on my own to be sure I understood exactly where this question fit into the survey. And maybe the folks who were involved in debating this in the working group can maybe expound a little bit on the issue of whether to include this at all or not. I mean, obviously, this information is more limited than with regard to what comes in the first part of this survey. It seems to me that it's potentially useful to know whether the rates we see from the details above, how they compare to the rates that the insurers, rather that the shops
Yeah.
show in response to this question. But it's much less detailed, and I'm curious why this was a matter of whether to include it at all or not. Is there any downside of including it?
Well, let's I actually think that's a great question. Thank you. And we have two members of the subgroup here with their hands raised. So I think Chris Stark, your hand was up first, and then I will take Rick.
Thank you, Co-Chair. And Professor Quokka, thank you for that question. You know, I think that we look at it as collectively. So one thing that came from the last hearing that really want to make crystal clear is that the insurance paid rates are significant to the decisions that we're going to make here, as well as the questions that we've highlighted in 1 through 9 now for the labor rate. The only reason, and it's for later, but I think that it's important to this discussion, that we don't feel that we need an insurance survey is because insurance labor rates are available from verified sources. And so we'll have the insurance rates framed on one end. We have the charged rates now from the survey that will be collected. This will give us, I think, another key indicator as to what the rates of the market are as it pertains to those contracts, whether they're rental contracts, municipal contracts, governmental contracts. It helps to frame the rest of this for what our charge is that fair and equitable labor rate. As
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting.
And so I was going for simplicity here, Professor. Was it that kind of having this online, we didn't know how many questions we could get before people would fall off and kind of stop doing the survey. So that's why we just tried to go with highest and lowest. I have no opposition to average or mean or mode, whatever you think is the best addition there. And then, you know, similarly is question 11 is making sure that we know in terms of what's being reported in the labor rate of those non-insurance charged amounts. Well, what's that percentage? So that's really just how we were trying, and our view as the insurers trying to garner that data so that we could frame out the rest of this debate.
Okay. Brian, I think, was next, and then I'll get to Matthew.
Thank you again. With regard to question number 10, I think that for that to have any validity for us to understand what it potentially means, we would literally have to look at the terms and conditions of each contract, because, you know, there's a lot of stuff that could be written into the words that would, you know, severely affect one way or the other what the contracted rate might be. So, and I don't think we have the ability, nor would anybody share their contracts. And I'm sure that, you know, the insurance companies wouldn't share their referral agreements, although that would be important for us to know when looking at the rates that they believe are prevailing.
Okay, Rick?
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. When it comes to these questions, we already know that participation with insurance contracts is somewhere around 20%. So the vast majority of the industry does not participate in any contracted deals with the insurance industry. And the percentage of repairers that have contracts, whether government or rental car companies or otherwise, is even a much smaller percentage than that. It's like, what, you know, where do you begin, where do you end? Is it, you know, what do you charge Hertz Rent-A-Car? And then what do you charge your brother-in-law, the landscaper who cuts your lawn for free, and you give him a deal? I just don't think it's relevant because it represents such a small percentage of the repair shops in the state.
Okay. Matthew, and then I'll get to you, Professor Quokka.
Yeah, I just wanted to dovetail a little bit on what Mr. Stark brought up, was the fact that the insurer rates are already available. So the fact that they're already available to the public and we can get those, I think displaying what it is on a contract isn't necessarily needed, as those numbers are most likely the same as what's available to the public already. I just think it's muddying the waters and creating more information than needed in this survey.
Okay, John Quokka? John? Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for explaining further the merits of including this or not including this. Let me make two comments. One is, if it is to be included, asking for the highest and lowest runs a real risk of getting, for the reasons that have been mentioned, some wildly variable, very, idiosyncratic, very unusual, kind of numbers. So asking for something like the average or the mode or something else, that's perhaps asking more of the shop in order to compile that, but it would be much more meaningful than picking something way out on the left range and the right end tail as well. So that would be one observation. The other is that, while some of this information is available in other sources, it seems to me that it may be relevant to get this at this time from each shop at this level, if it's relatively straightforward for them to compile.
Yeah, that was my concern about how burdensome it was, more so than relevancy.
So I leave that question to people who know this business far better than I, but that would be the other issue that I would raise. Perhaps people can speak to that as well. How burdensome this would be for shops to undertake. I mean, some shops may have a small number. By the way, this doesn't say during what period of time, highest and lowest during what period of time. That we might want to add, within the past 12 months or whatever, in order to be sure that they understand that it's bound up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
I was going to ask two related questions. One, I assume, but I should ask, that if we receive responses to this survey, that do not answer all of the questions, that we will incorporate the answers that we do receive. We won't just throw away the survey because the surveyee has decided to only answer half the questions, for example. And another question would be, I know that Mr. Powers talked about his plan for an up or down vote on 10 and 11. And I'm wondering if it would make sense or be helpful to have up or down votes separately on 10 and 11.
Yes, I think we should actually vote on the non-contested issues first, then on each of the separate questions second. And concerning, Mark, your question about discarding survey responses that were not 100% completed, I was not thinking that we would do that. We would take the information that was provided regardless. I hope that answers your questions.
Yep.
Chris?
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. I was just going to say that I am fully in agreement that if we want to reword for the purposes of the vote, question 10 to say, if your facility has fleet or governmental contracts, please provide the average labor rates charged under those contracts over the prior 12 months. And I think that would capture everything. We're amenable to that. I just wanted to make that clear for the group.
Yeah, average or median, something like, yeah. Rick?
Thank you. If we were to include that question, the way that Chris just stated, what about the 90+% of shops that don't have these outside contracts? What is that number really going to represent when it's such a small percentage of repair shops that have a contract like that?
Well, that would be information in and of itself, right? I mean, that it's a very small percentage of shops. And I'm not sure that just because it's a small percentage, it's not meaningful in some way. I'm not saying that does change the weight put on it, certainly.
Well, it kind of goes, we want as many shops as possible to take the survey, not disregard it because it's overly, cumbersome. which is kind of why we didn't put in every single rate that could possibly exist. But we are looking for an answer to a question that we know doesn't impact the vast majority of shops.
Okay, well, we could actually, in the form, we could pose including a statement such as, please complete the survey to the best of, as adequately as practical. So in other words, don't not submit or complete the survey just because you don't have the answers to all the questions.
I mean, if it were to be utilized, I guess in NA, because, I would say if we get 300 shops to complete the survey, you're probably going to get about 20 at tops that would have an answer to that question.
Yeah, I'm not sure I think the form is set up, Aaron, and you can answer this so that it's set to numeric. We're not going to have alpha characters, but certainly a 0 could represent that.
Yeah, they could do NA, and then also there's the capability in Microsoft Forms to make questions required or optional. So all of the information about what's your phone number, everything, I think would make sense to be marked required. But if the other questions were marked optional, then someone can still submit the form even if they leave, say, question 10 blank. If that answers any questions, or as Stacy said, it could be added to say, write NA if this doesn't apply to you. Either way.
And my other concern with this contract language is what's included in that contract. Do you get to sit on the car for 6 months, only use it as fill-in work? Is there any timetable associated with it? With that contract, what makes it different than a market rate repair? And there's got to, typically when you have a contract, there's a promise of work, there's a promise of payment, there's how much time you have to complete it. A lot of times when you're doing things for a lower rate, if somebody does, say, dealer work, they use it as fill-in work. And it's jobs that do not take a priority in the process, in the production process. So I think we're kind of going down a long road if we're going to ask that question. I think to get a fair answer, we should also know what's included in that and why that contracted rate exists.
Okay, thank you, Rick. So I have a couple hands up still. I think Brian, you were next.
Thank you. If part of our goal here is to really find what the competitive rates are in the market, then therefore we must exclude any closed market agreements. And that's exactly what a contract is. It's a closed market that only those two entities have agreed to. And again, for various terms and conditions that may be preferential for a variety of reasons. So my opinion is that it has to be eliminated because it doesn't meet, it doesn't identify what a competitive rate would be. No contract rate can ever be included to identify what a competitive rate is. And then secondly, as the creator of the survey, our group really needs to know exactly why we're asking a particular question. If we don't know what problem we're trying to solve, what the question is that we're trying to understand, we shouldn't be asking the question because we're just going to get, a variety of bad data.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Sean?
Yeah, I just want to get some clarity on one thing. I think Mr. Sarver, you had mentioned that I think 90% of the shops do not have contracts. Is that in reference to a direct repair program? Are you considering the direct repair program part of the contract, a separate contract? Just so I'm understanding the terminology here.
Thanks, Sean. The way that the question was worded was the highest non-insurance contracted labor rate and the lowest non-insurance contracted labor rate. Because we already have in a table what the contracted rates are that insurance carriers have. And I think even if we were to include those in any way, we would also need to see, you know, the language contained in there and what's kicking that rate off. You know, again, what are you giving up or what are you getting in exchange for?
Okay.
No, I guess my question is more general than that, even just like, you know, when you say 90% are not in contracted, does that mean that are you including the like a direct repair program as a contract, or no, that's separate?
It would be contract, but that would be an insurance contracted rate.
Okay,
This
so when
is-
you
this
say
question-
contracted, just again, you're talking about separate, not a DRP, correct?
Correct. Like if you're doing work for your municipality, if you're doing work for, you know, Hertz Rent-A-Car or, you know, XYZ dealership and they have a contract, that would be what this question is asking.
Okay, so again, just to make sure so anything, basically, do we know what percentage of the shops, I presume, have you know, some kind of direct repair program contract with insurers in Massachusetts?
Well, whether referral or direct repair, well, they call them program shops. I think that number, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, is I think around 22% participation in that program. So
So,
even
you
with
know,
that, the
just so-
vast majority of shops have 0 contracts.
So you're saying like the vast majority of them are not part of any kind of DRP?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
Okay, so 3 more hands, and I'm hoping we can move on soon to take a vote on the basic items at least, but I think Dan Brown, you are up next.
Yes, and I just want to agree with a few statements about question 10, is that most of that non-insurance contracted work is work that's backburnered, it uses fillers, it's not prime work, it's not an even flow through your shop. So most all of it has other ties financially to you that does not have to do with labor rate, right? You're using it to fill in. So there's a lot of other monies out there that's not on the labor rate line for that type of work. So you would have to see every single contract for your fleet and government work to figure out really how it affects your shop financially.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've already suggested replacing the lowest and highest with an average or median. I do have a question. I mean, since it's a contract, is there some sort of similarity to an insurance contract? I mean, it's a large contract, so I'm wondering if there's relevancy there.
If I may, that's what we were going for, Madam Co-Chair. You know, we're talking about, and I think that my friends from the other side want us to get confused a little bit in the various percentages, but let's be clear, 90% of all body shop work is done with an insurance component attached to it. And so if we're talking about 10% of the rest of this market, and that's what we're trying to get to with question 11, is really understanding that, is okay, through this survey, let's learn more, if we're wrong, as to the percent of repairs that are truly customer paid. And we're only asking it in the good faith estimate way in those terms, because to Mr. Starbird's point, you know, we don't want to get into every level of all of this, just the same way that for the questions under question 9, we're not asking them to tell us how much of a discount they give to their friends and family off of the labor rate to get to what is truly paid. So, you know, we're all trying to ask this in a way that gets to the heart of the answer, and that we can use it. But these contracted rates are absolutely part and parcel to this unique market that is almost entirely done in some way, shape, or form based off of contracted, negotiated rates, whether that's with an insurance company, a consumer, a rental car company, or a municipality. And we're just trying to collect all of that data from each of the angles so we know exactly what we're looking at with these surveys.
Okay, thank you. John Quokka, you had your hand up.
The comments have been helpful and have answered my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. I'm hoping right now we can take a vote on the on the basic components of the survey, not the 2 contested items first?
We're on the same page that the program is not.
Paul?
I mean, on the basic components, I have no problem, but I would vote if the 2 questions that are 10 and 11 are not part of it, I would vote against it. I think that any information we get is helpful. And for me, who's kind of in between, I'm not on either side. The more information I can to educate myself gives me a better answer as to where we should be. So I would say that I would want to approve both questions on the whole. And unfortunately, I have a hard stop at 3 o'clock, but I figured I'd let you know that.
Okay.
So my position is we
let's,
include them both.
Okay, Michael, can you open that up to the board and decide and have the board take a poll of whether or not we should decide on this issue on a combined basis or separately?
Right. Okay, so from hearing everybody, then now this will break down into a 3-part question. Mr. Starboard wanted to separate number 11 out from the number 2, which is was the 2-part question within that. So it's going to be broken into 3 parts, right? So for Mr., I'm going to call a poll of the members, and I'll start with Mark Morante. Now, Mr. Morante, are you there, sir?
I am.
All right. So the first part of the question is, do you agree with the proposed survey as written, up to including question 9, containing the 6 categories of auto body labor rates?
Yes.
Yes. The second part of this question is, do you agree with adding in the additional proposed questions contained in question 10 of the proposed survey? And that is, if your facility has fleet or government contracts, please provide below the highest and lowest labor rates charged under those contracts.
Well,
Correction,
we've
Mr.
decided
Powers.
to change that to average.
What is it?
We've decided to change that to average or median.
Yeah, it'll be read at below the average labor rates charged under those contracts for the previous 12 months. Is the
Sorry
way
to
the
interrupt,
question would now
Michael.
read.
So wait a minute. So this is now changed. So we're going to please provide not the below the highest and lowest labor rate. That's
No.
deleting that.
We're gonna take out the highest and lowest and just have an average.
The average.
Mhm.
All right, we're going to delete highest and lowest. The average rates charged under those contracts
For the previous 12 months.
Mhm.
for the previous 12 months. Okay, this language changes for
Okay.
And then we'll delete A and B.
Yeah, I don't know that Aaron can do that on the screen here, but we all know that it's been done, I hope.
12 months, and we're deleting A and B. Is that it?
Correct.
A and B disappear, okay.
So, yeah, it's just an
Okay,
average.
so let me reread the question. Do you agree with adding in the additional proposed questions contained in question 10 of the proposed survey that's now been amended? If your facility has fleet or government contracts, please provide below the average rates charged under those contracts for the previous 12 months. Do you agree with that or disagree?
I agree.
Thank you. Now, the third part of this question is, do you agree with including in the survey number 11, which is if your facility completes both insurance and non-insurance involved repairs, please provide a good faith estimate of the average monthly percentage of repairs completed without insurance company involvement? Do you agree or disagree with that?
I agree.
Thank you. Okay. So. Well, let's move down to the next one. Thank you, Mark. For the consumer advocate appointee by the co-chair Sean Kane. So let me read the question. Do you agree with the proposed survey as written up to including question 9 containing the 6 categories of auto body labor rates? Mr. Kane,
Yes,
do you agree or disagree?
yes,
Yes? Okay. So the second question is, do you agree with adding in the additional proposed question contained in question 10, the following language? If your facility has fleet or government contracts, please provide below the average rates charged under those contracts for the previous 12 months.
yes,
You agree?
yes,
Thank you. Now, the third question is, the proposed question number 11 is currently written or proposed in the survey. If your facility completes both insurance and non-insurance involved repairs, please provide a good faith estimate of the average monthly percentage of repairs completed without insurance company involvement. You agree or disagree?
agree, yes.
Yes. Okay, so you agree to adding all those 3. Very good, thank you. The next board member. J.C. Burton is unavailable. John Quoker. Question 1. Do you agree or disagree with adding into the proposed survey as written, as presented, up to including question 9 containing the 6 categories of auto body labor rates?
I do. And
Thank
if it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, I'm willing to stipulate that I agree to follow the next 2 provisions as well.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, sir. Makes it easier. So, next board member. Paul C. Burke. As to the first question, do you agree or disagree with the survey as written up till including question number 9, which contains the 6 labor rates?
Yes,
You
I
agree
do,
with
and
that?
I will also stipulate to the next 2 questions as yes.
Both of them, yes. Thank you. Okay, as to David Brown, as to the first part of the question, do you agree or disagree with the survey as proposed, as written, up till question 9, containing the 6 categories of labor rates?
I agree and I disagree to questions 10 and 11.
Okay, no on 10 and 11. Thank you. So, Christopher Stark, do you agree or disagree as the survey is proposed, written up until question 9, including the 6 auto body labor rate questions is written?
I do agree to questions 1 through 9, as well as a yes vote for questions 10 and 11 to be included.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so we have Peter Smith. Mr. Smith, do you agree or disagree, including in the proposed survey as written, up to question 9, including the 6 questions about the auto body labor rates?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Powers. I agree to the inclusion of questions 1 through 9, as you have read, and I am also stipulating yes on questions 10 and 11.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Now, for the next member, we have Samantha Tracy. Now, Samantha Tracy, do you agree or disagree with the proposed survey as written up to question 9, including the 6 auto body labor rate questions?
Yes, I agree and stipulate that I agree with questions number 10 and 11 as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Samantha. So now moving to Rick Starbard, do you agree or disagree as to the proposed survey as presented up to question 9, including the 6 auto body labor rates?
I do agree.
You do. Thank you.
I was going up to question 9. I'm opposed to question 10 and 11. And I'd like to go on the record as stating they're irrelevant. They will undoubtedly reduce the number of respondents, and that we also did not discuss the merits of whether or not, why we should or not be including question 11.
Right. Thank you. All right. Brian Bernard, do you agree or disagree as to the proposed survey questions presented up to question number 9, including the question of the auto body labor rates for the 6 particular questions? Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. And for questions 10 and 11, I disagree.
Right. Very good. Thank you. Now, as to Matthew Chiscini, do you agree or disagree as to the proposed survey as written up to question number 9, including the 6 categories of auto body labor rates? Do you agree or disagree, Matt?
With 1 through 9, I disagree with 10 and 11.
So you agree with 1 to 9?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, sir. And I disagree with 10 and 11.
No on 10 and 11. Okay. So we have, as for the first part of the survey up to number 9, we have unanimous agreement by the advisory board that they go along with that part of the survey, which is a good thing. As to questions, the additional 2 questions, we have a consensus in favor, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 no on question number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And on question number 3, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 no. So a consensus of the board has agreed that the survey as proposed, as I've just read, will be the survey that will be submitted to the auto body shops. Now, I've got to point out just one thing about this exercise. As I stated at the beginning of the meeting, the advisory board is to conduct the survey, but there's another point in this law. It says they will do the survey and collect the data, but thereafter they will conduct an analysis of this data. So many of the questions I've heard raised, which I thought were very good questions by Mr. Stava and Mr. Bernard and Mr. Chiscini, I thought they were excellent questions, but they can also be brought up at a later date when the survey results are brought in. And that's when you do the analysis. So this is just a preliminary part, collecting the data. We still have the analysis part, which is downstream. I just want to make that point. Okay, so I'll turn the meeting back over to co-chair Stacy Gotham.
Okay, I think we're back to the agenda. One more thing I wanted to verify with the members is that the survey is being sent to all of the registered members, right? And we hope to receive responses from all of the members. Is that correct? That's the plan?
Our guess, as the data that we have available, the list that we have available at our disposal from the Division of Standards, that's why we added in that question, right? Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that's why we added in that additional question to the profile as to whether or not collision repair was the primary function of their business, just so that we have that as a data point to where when we're now analyzing this data, we can decide, you know, the impact of certain people that may answer that collision repair isn't their primary part of the business.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
I guess it was last week, we talked about adding a time constraint to the survey, and also will reminders be going out on a repetitive basis to make sure we can try to increase the response rate. We never really closed down on that, but I'd like to open that up a little bit.
Thank you. That's a great point. I think we had discussed the 30 days as a potential, and I believe 2 weeks was suggested, but that was too short. And we could certainly visit the idea of sending a reminder at 2 weeks. Does that why don't we take a vote on the 30 days unless someone has comments on that? Okay, Brian, you have a comment?
Yeah, I think I would actually suggest maybe doing weekly. Again, you know, people can miss if there's only 2 requests during the period of a month, that could still be overlooked.
Okay, that's fine. We can do that. We can do that, right, Aaron? Or Mark, I'm not sure who's going to send out the.
That would be a question for Mark.
Yeah, we'll be sending it out. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark. Dan?
Could something also be placed on the advisory board's website, the state website, reminding people to fill out the survey? Because plenty of people are visiting that website to find out when the next meetings are.
Okay, we haven't, that's further down in the, I'm hoping that like that's on item 9 on the agenda. The next meeting date, and this public meeting, the public hearing is on the 12th, so it's next week.
I think his point was to put the survey's date and maybe a contact to get the survey on the our website. I'm not going to say.
Yeah, I think we could do that, right, Michael? Mike Powers?
I believe so. I'll check with the IT people.
Yeah. Okay, why don't we take a vote on the 30 days with reminders?
So moved.
Second.
We have a third?
Third. Yes, third.
So we've got 3. I have a lot of non-responses. Are you opposed to the 30 days?
4, Pete Smith.
5, Samantha Tracy.
I agree.
Yes.
6, okay.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, great.
Yes.
That gives us a majority, so it will be a 30-day period with weekly reminders. Okay, so the next, now that we've gotten through the survey, the next thing I wanted to cover was the insurer data. It's not really, I have /survey, but I suppose the insurers are just going to collect their data, and we have to decide whether we're going to require all the insurers to respond, or do what Rhode Island does, which is they require responses from writers of more than 1% of the market. And this is an overwhelming majority of the market. And I'm a little concerned that some big like national writers that write very small percentages here may not respond. I don't know if that's likely. Maybe the industry can speak to that. So
If I may, for the insurers, I don't necessarily think that we need to do the insurer survey, depending on, I guess, a question for Professor Quokka. We're able to garner verifiable industry data that I think both us and the repair shops agree with the source that can, at a minimum, in terms of what insurers can see, break it down into the statewide average for mechanical, labor rate, refinishing, the same categories that we have for the auto body survey. So we have that statewide average data at our disposal as insurers. I believe that the body shop side of the equation, they can answer, but I'm fairly certain that they can actually see it by company to provide this data. So if we're fine with the average, statewide averages that includes the entire market, I don't think we have to do the survey. If not, happy to have additional conversations about that.
I think personally, and I'll let John speak after me, it might be useful information to have individual companies so we can see the differences between companies. I don't know what, Matthew, you have your hand up, but I want to go to John Quokka first, but then I'll get to you to see what he thinks of that.
I would simply ask if there are, for example, differences across the state that are relevant to the way we think about this. That a statewide average won't be sufficiently informative.
That's a very good point. Yeah, and that's another item we have to get to in this agenda.
I can speak to both.
But again, I would ask, for clarification if that's maybe possible as well from the insurer side.
I defer to Matt or Rick, I think, on this, because I'm pretty sure that the data source that we're talking about, that what faces the insurers is different than what faces the body shop. So there may be that company specific data on the body shop side. Not sure how that breaks down on their end.
Excuse me, Stacy, it's Paul Burke. I have to leave the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much for attending today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So I can speak for all body shops, Stacy, that the rates are the same in every region of Massachusetts. We don't see a difference. Those rates are set by those contracts. And I believe we've already provided everyone with a weighted average for the state of Massachusetts. I believe I sent that a couple months ago and you disseminated it, Stacy, to everyone. I would just say to take that, and then if there's any refutation by the insurance side, at that point we can maybe address it. But I think that we've collected the data for the top 96.5% of the market share and averaged it, weighted by market share. And then that brings in what the state average is currently.
Okay.
So we did that homework and provided it. But and I'm not sure, how much farther we would need to go and on that data. If the insurers, want to look at the numbers, they're individualized by insurer, so they could then say, no, that rate is incorrect. And then I would say to just at that point, display the data.
Yes. Okay. So let me just speak to that before I get to you, Brian. I do know that I received a regional definition, I think, from Rick. So I have that. And the AIB also has a regional definitions on their website. So, that I was able to view, and the two listings seem pretty comparable. The main difference I noticed was that Suffolk County on the AIB listing wasn't broken up. It was just like the whole county was together, which was easier from, I mean, I thought it would be easier to work with, but in terms of mapping, but so the AIB is keeping this information like listed on their website, and so I assume that's for a reason, right? That the regional definitions are important. And I also want to have a vote on this, regional definitions, and also whether we do what Rhode Island does and get data on individual companies that write up to more than 1% or more of the market, because that might be a valuable comparison as well, rather than just a statewide average. I don't know if Brian, let me just get to Brian first.
Yeah, thank you. I think I agree with your last statement, if I get it right. I think I would like, in the spirit of, public information for this public meeting, we should get an answer from each of those insurance companies as to what their labor rates are, so they can go on record for what the payments are in each of those regions.
Okay. So I think we're gonna have a vote on the insurers that are going to be the method of including the insurance data. It's been proposed to either by Chris Stark to use a statewide average, and then there's the option of by insurance company for the writers greater than 1% of the market, and I think that's about 16 companies, and then also whether to, I think it should, I would prefer it to be broken down by region as well, although we have not yet defined the regions. So can we have a vote on that? Rick?
Thank you. Unless something's changed in the last week or so, it doesn't matter regions in the state. The rates are defined by the state lines. So it could be, X in Connecticut, right on the Connecticut-Mass border, but as soon as you cross into Massachusetts, the rate changes and it's the same as it is in, the upper Northeast on the New Hampshire line.
Okay. Does anyone else have a comment? Thank you, Rick. Is everyone okay? I would like to call a vote on this and separate it into 3 options. The one option is, as suggested by the industry, to just include a statewide average. Second option is to include individual writers greater than 1%, or some alternative. If someone else has an alternative to that, that would be good to hear. And then a third, whether to require regional differentiation. Are you can you open the question, Michael? Or do you have questions on my questions?
However you're presenting it.
What's that?
So however you're presenting this, you're polling the member of how they want to do this?
Yes.
So it sounds like we should choose between 1 or 2 and then separately say yes or no on 3. So do we want to
That's a
use
good
the
idea.
averages? Okay. All right. So I'm going to choose number 2, and I'm going to choose no on the question of regionalism. It doesn't sound like we need it.
Okay.
I'll go on the record in favor of question 1. No survey, and we'll just go with the averages and the other data that's available out of verified industry sources.
So wait, question 1 was again, I'm confused here. Was it including individual writers, or was it including just?
I
a
thought
statement?
question one was not going with a survey and relying on the verified industry data that we
Okay.
have available. I think that
Okay.
that's kind of where our thought process also was. I think, I don't want to speak for them as part of the working group, is that we have all of this data. We don't necessarily need to collect it via
Okay.
a survey.
Okay. Okay, so that's, sorry, question one. Go ahead, Michael. So we have 2 yeses on question 1 already.
No, no, I voted for question 2.
So you voted for question 2?
Yep.
Okay, so you voted for regional, by company.
By company, exactly.
Yeah, okay, so one industry and 1 company. And the company is greater than 1%? Is that like Rhode Island? Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll go on the record of voting for number 2 by company and no on region.
John Quokka, or?
Yes, I would agree to get data by company, but as I understand it, there are no regional differences, and based on that assurances by parties that know the answer to that question, I don't see any reason to pursue regional differences.
Michael, do
We'll poll the members. How many do we have so far?
we have Mark Morante, Chris Stark, we have Sean Kane and John Quokka.
Who's left?
Dan Brown.
I'd say no, we don't need it regionally, but yes, I'd like to poll them individually. Survey them.
Okay. Paul Burke left. Okay, so then we have the insurers. Chris Stark, you already voted. Peter Smith.
Yes, thank you, Co-Chair Gotham. I am opposed to having the survey sent to insurers. When I look at what the Leads Act stipulates, it clearly defines that the advisory board is responsible for coordinating a survey of relevant auto body shops, but I have concerns that, it doesn't say that the advisory board will also coordinate the survey of carriers. I agree with Mr. Stark that the data is readily available and that we can get it. We can get that data, that verifiable data, through other means other than a survey. I am also opposed to any regional segregation. I think that question has been asked and answered as far as the state being treated as a whole. So I am again opposed to surveying the carriers and no on regional.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Samantha.
I think for simplicity, we could use the industry data for the insurance carriers. And as has been already discussed, there really isn't a regional difference. So I would say no on that.
Okay, and Rick Starboard.
I'm in favor of polling the industry. It would be interesting to see if their figures differ at all from what we show in our information, and I don't think we need to poll it regionally. It's pretty much known that it's state.
But industry, are you saying just a statewide average and not company specific?
No, poll the individual companies.
Okay. Okay, Matthew.
I think Stacy. Yeah, I would go with number 2, poll the individual companies. And we do not need to speak to region, so no to the region.
Okay, and I think
Brian still has to vote.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
Brian.
also, yeah, I would also support asking for the information by company, but no regionalization.
Okay, have I missed anyone? I don't think so. I think that we've got a consensus for by company greater than 1% and no region specific. Although there are 4 against, all 3 insurers. I mean, if they wanted to do just one, the industry-wide, statewide. And I believe, I don't remember who else, but 4 board, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 board members were against it, were opposed to this. And I think 6 were in favor of doing it by company.
Correct. That's my count.
My,
Or
my
my
num-
count's actually 3 to 6.
It's
I have 3 to 7.
Okay.
I recorded 3 to 7. Just
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great. So, but either we have a decision there. Right? So we're gonna do by company for greater than 1% and no regional differentiation. Okay, so the next steps I wanted to mention are for our next meeting are the next step is going to be sampling the results for verification. And I have discussed briefly with Professor Quokka, and we'll get together and talk about surveying methodology. Am I correct in stating that, John? John Quokka? Did he drop off?
it looks like you're muted, Professor Quokka.
Yeah, you're muted.
Yes, I apologize. Yes, agreed, Madam Chair. I look forward to speaking with you some more about that, and
Okay.
we'll address
Thank
that soon.
Yeah, and I don't know that if any other board members or groups of, subgroups of board members want to come up with their own sampling method, we'd certainly entertain that. And then, let's see.
Hey, Stacy, it's Chris Stark. Just an FYI on the survey. We're going to need to just change a few things within that to make it fit for the auto or for the insurance side. Like it would be your number from your license number from the Division of Insurance. May not have a county in Massachusetts as an example. So some of that verifiable information. And then we'd probably be saying provide the average labor rate your company pays for insurance repairs for the following categories of repairs. So generally speaking, if that's, I just trying to do it simply and on the fly with this, but just want to point out that we need a couple of those tweaks, and then I don't think 9 and 10 are applicable to the insurance industry side.
Okay. So we can work on the actual form and the separate list. I don't know if you want to send us an updated listing. I'm talking about the subgroup that got together, where the changes have been made, and then we'll have a proposed form that we can share with all the members, or with the subgroup before sending it out. I don't know how the members feel about that.
Works for me.
Does that work?
Good with me.
Seems like,
Yep.
okay, great. Okay. so the next steps also included the stuff that we already talked about, the timeline and so forth. So the only thing we have to decide on is the next meeting date. Do we want to meet in 2 weeks and 3 weeks?
I'd say you got your data collection going on, so it'd probably be after you get results. That the time would probably be around first week of July, second week of July.
Okay.
If I might just ask a question on the next steps still, for the public hearing, and I queried this last time, but now we're not meeting again until after we have it. Is the anticipation for the members of the board to give any opening statements? And then also any time limits for the speakers that we should make them aware of that the chairs would want to institute? And for the board, are there any constraints on the number of questions that we'll be able to ask those people that come to testify?
Michael, correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, but I think we had discussed a 3-minute timeline.
Right. That sounds good. 3 minutes for each speaker.
And I'm sorry, Chris, what other questions do you have besides the?
Are we giving opening statements as members of the board, or will it just come from the co-chairs opening the meeting? And then I've got one more.
Do some board members have a really strong preference for making a statement?
Maybe we offer board members the opportunity to do that if they wish.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, well, the chairs will do an introductory, opening statement. And at the end of it, brief statement. We'll give an opportunity, any member of the board who'd like to make a statement, short statement, they're welcome to it. And then we'll begin the testimony.
And then
Yeah,
my
thank you,
final,
Mark.
thanks, Mark. That was great. My final question was just on whether or not there would be kind of a number of questions for each witness from each member of the board. I don't know if we want to constrain that or not. Looking back on this last time, I probably had the most questions sent to me. It was there for a while, but open, I don't know if we want to control that or not. I was just, curious as we kind of formulate questions that we might have for the witnesses.
Well, I don't know. My experience was on the last time on the special commission, when Chairman Murphy ran this part of the meeting. It moved on very fluidly, I thought. People were testified. Very few questions were asked by the board members. My recollection was. The only one who was asking any questions was Mr. Stark. The rest of us didn't say anything, I don't think. Only kidding you. But it moved along very fluidly, and I expect this will be the same type of public meeting. I don't anticipate that we're going to be engaging the people that are coming in to testify. It's basically, we're here to hear from interested parties and what they have to say. That's the focus of the meeting.
Madam Co-Chair, I had a question. This is
Okay.
Rick Scott.
Yes.
I'm going back to the insurer survey. Is the full board going to be voting on that survey before it goes out? And if not, do we have input on what's included in that survey, such as percentage of the industry that is under contract and, questions like that?
That's a good point. I had kind of contemplated that the industry would be providing comparable data to the shops, but
Well, if their rates are driven by contracts, shouldn't we know the percentage of the industry that they have under contract, and or what special concessions may be required to be under those contracts?
I'm happy to work offline with you on that, Rick, and see if we can come to agreement, and not have to call for a vote of the board on this. I don't know. That's up to Stacy and Mr. Powers. Because I'm happy to work through, some of those questions. What percentage of, making sure that we've just got the language right.
Do we maybe want to convene the same group?
Yeah.
Ryan, Pete, Matt? I mean,
Yeah.
Ryan, Pete.
That would be great. It's been very helpful, this
Yep.
subgroup meeting.
Works for me.
I'm good.
I think we'll have to get to the answer to that question at the next meeting. So let's schedule, I want to suggest for the next meeting, either this could be the following week, or I was looking at the calendar, and maybe July 15th or 17th, unless someone wants to propose alternatives, but either of those.
That sounds
Tuesday
good to me.
Works for me too.
I am away that week. Is there any chance we could do it Thursday, July 10th?
Is that too soon, do you think?
Move it up the following week after he comes back.
Let's see. The 22nd, is anyone on a vacation on the 22nd? Is everyone available on the 22nd of July?
I'm available.
I
Yes.
will be away.
Is anyone not available on the 22nd? Okay,
I-
everyone's available. What's that?
I am not available
How about the 24th?
that whole week. I am actually not available.
Okay, why don't we move it to the 10th? Is everyone available on the 10th?
Stacy, there's a chance I might not be.
Oh.
I think it might just be kind of hard in the summer once everyone starts their vacations. But later in July would be better for me. The last 2 weeks would be fine in all likelihood.
Yeah.
Week of the 28th.
Yeah, I can do the 29th. And also, just so that we have it, if the four of us are in agreement, there's always a possibility for the insurer survey to be approved at the beginning or end, probably. At the end of the public session, we could just hold enough time while the meeting's still called to vote on that, so we're not waiting on that till July.
Right, I would imagine by the 12th, that part should be buttoned up.
We'll hope at least.
So it's July 29th.
Same time, 2:00.
Yes,
Can everyone make that time?
it's close
good.
to get it.
Okay, so July 29th it is. And
We need a motion to adjourn. I think we're pretty much done.
Let me just add, Stacy, that I'm out of the country on the 12th next week, unfortunately. And with some time zone differences, I'm not sure if I'll be able to zoom in either, but I do understand you will create a Zoom link. Is that correct?
That's correct.
you're out on the 29th, is that?
No, on the 12th next week. So for the live session.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, there would be a live, and also it's really nothing. I don't think we're going to be deciding anything. It's public.
Understood.
Commentary. Yeah. So yes.
Very good.
I'm fine with the 29th.
Okay.
All right. I think we're ready
Okay.
for a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Second? Okay, Mr. Morante,
Yes, adjourn.
Sean Kane,
Yes, adjourn.
thank you. John Quokka,
Yes, adjourn.
Paul C. Burke, David Brown,
Yes, adjourn.
Christopher Stark,
Yes, adjourn.
Peter Smith,
Yes, adjourn.
Rick Stava. Oh, good.
Yes, to adjourn.
Samantha Tracy,
Yes, to adjourn.
Brian Bernard,
Yes, to adjourn.
and Matt Chiskini.
Yes, to adjourn.
All right, the motion carries. This meeting is now adjourned. Nice seeing everybody.
Thank you.
Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.